What's the story, folks? Why is our counteroffensive cruising at a snail's pace? I was all ready for my Crimean beach party. What's up with Russians? Why aren't they hightailing it yet? And why on earth have we not cordoned off Melitopol? Why are we not marching into the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant? For goodness sake, can't we smash that Crimean bridge already? When you scroll through the internet chatter around the Ukrainian counteroffensive, you can't help but feel as if everyone's drumming their fingers waiting for a blockbuster event. Like we are on edge, expecting a constant adrenaline rush from some sensational news every single day. Self-proclaimed experts would have you believe the Ukrainian army should be hitting the road to Rostov just like the Wagner Group. Well, time to cut through the noise, folks. I'm Maria Drutska, and today we are going to unpack the slow progression and seemingly minimal triumphs of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. So, where do we begin? Well, let's start with the news mill that surrounds these events. Nothing about the counteroffensive prep was hush-hush, and rightfully so. We didn't shy away from announcing that the weaponry and ammunition from our Western allies would fuel our future counteroffensive. Remember all those military aid packages, the deals that armed Ukraine with APCs, armored vehicles, tanks, missiles, and more? This created a sort of bubble among those closely following the Russian-Ukrainian war. The assumption: once these forces and resources reach a certain mass, the Ukrainian army will flip the switch on a counteroffensive, kick the Russians out by summer, and reclaim Crimea by fall. But hey, it's not a chess game. Our military and political leaders never assured us of a rapid-fire success story. We value our troops too much to resort to a brutal mid-grinder strategy like Wagner's private military company in Bakhmut. So the speculations of all those experts who discuss where the Ukrainian army will strike on the internet are just a bluff, and the plans of our leadership are known to a very limited number of people. Before we carry on, if you're still here, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to support the channel and help us grow, you can do so through my Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee, which I have shared in the description below. Here is a flashback for you. The 2022 Kharkiv counteroffensive. Ukrainian troops spotted a weak link in the Russian armor and cut through their front lines. Panic ensued among the Russians as we set up ambushes, captured prisoners, and seized many trophies. The Kharkiv counteroffensive unfolded in real time before our eyes. Our soldiers shared plenty of videos. The deep state rolled out regular updates, and the Defense Monitor subscriber base ballooned. What's the irony here? Well, we only got to see the end result of months of painstaking prep. Remember when Ukraine received the HIMARS systems? That was a pivotal moment, just like when the Bayraktars and Peonies came into play at the onset of the invasion. With HIMARS, we could strike enemy ammunition depots, headquarters, command posts, and assembly points, which were otherwise hard to hit due to the lack of necessary forces and means. Remember the ecstasy when we struck the Antonov Bridge? The Russians began grumbling about the increasing difficulty of supplying equipment, ammunition, and manpower from the left bank to the right. All these factors laid the groundwork for a successful counteroffensive in Kharkiv, eventually forcing the Russians to vacate the right bank. Interestingly, before the Kharkiv counteroffensive, most of the attacking forces were concentrated in the Kherson direction. We kept the enemy on its toes with varying strikes on the front, forcing them to continuously shuffle reserves. The main objective in the Kharkiv direction was to push the enemy away from Kharkiv and prevent them from bombarding the city with cannon artillery. But when the Russians surprisingly could not put up a fight, our command gathered all the available forces and commenced the breakthrough. Only after the Kharkiv operation did the full-scale liberation of the right bank of the Kherson region begin. By then, the Russians had exhausted a lot of their resources and had to scatter their forces in different directions. Fast forward to now. We don't have the upper hand in air power. Yes, the F-16s are on the way at some point, but not just yet. Without clear edge in the air, attacking becomes tough. Despite their losses, the Russians still have a large air fleet. In artillery, Ukraine only outnumbers in certain directions, but artillery power isn't just about numbers, it's about having enough shells to fire. Fortunately, we now have certain capabilities in this direction. Let's not forget about the Russian defenses. They have dug 3 defensive lines behind the combat contact line to protect their fortification structures from our mortars and artillery during construction. On top of these defensive lines, minefields pose a significant threat. They are densely packed, making it impossible for heavy equipment to advance. Surely we could use demining machines, but with enemy artillery and air force still at large, our equipment would just be a sitting duck. So where does that leave us with the slow counteroffensive? We have all seen the snapshots and footage of the battered Leopards and Bradleys. Russian propagandists are working their cameras over time, framing an informational bubble that suggests a stalled Ukrainian counteroffensive. Even the Vladimir Putin is singing the same tune, boasting about over 150 destroyed tanks and a loss of 40,000 plus personnel. But we are going to buy that story? No. As it stands, enemy ammunition depots are being reduced to rubble, oil refineries are on fire, and we are raining down strikes on headquarters. We are keeping the Russian troops on their toes, forcing them to shuffle between different directions. Attack on Russian air defense systems are gaining momentum, which will pave the way for our manned and unmanned aircraft. And here is the clincher. Russia is running low on trained troops, and we're seeing T-55 and T-62 tanks being sent into the battle. It seems our command is playing a long game, a war of attrition against the enemy. Once they run out defense, we will be able to bridge their lines. Is this going to be a quick process? Not likely. Should we brace for some game-changing twist? I wouldn't hold my breath. Was a whirlwind show promised? Absolutely not. So digest the info and draw your conclusions. But above all, hold on to your faith in Ukraine and our defense forces. We Ukrainians breathe in that faith and have the confidence of victory every single day. Slava Ukraini!